Thank you for coming on today, Alisha. How are you?
You are so welcome. I am good. I've just been sitting here enjoying this sunshine and this early morning. So if I start speaking slow, just know I'm still in my groove waking up.
Because it's really early over there. I apologize.
No. It's time usually up, but I was just out and about last
Yeah.
night staring at the stars, so I'm fine.
Alisha Eisler,
Mhm.
who goes by Ngozi, is a leader in healing generational trauma and an
Mhm.
advocate for women's wellness. Having to navigate life in the corporate world as a femme, Black, outspoken, queer female, Alisha faced many hurdles with equal pay, mental health stability, and
Mhm.
social equity. She's
Mhm.
now dedicated her life to empowering femme presenting people from
Mhm.
intersectional backgrounds to heal and self advocate for their needs in the life that they desire. Alisha is also the CEO and the founder of Flourish. Did I say
Mhm.
that correctly? Ashe? Okay.
Perfect. Yeah,
A,
yeah.
a safe haven for mystical folks where she offers one-on-one coaching in her ancestral healing journey, More Than Worthy, and holds group coaching sessions in her empowered Femme Initiation journey. That is a mouthful, and I love it, Alicia. I love it.
It's a lot of things, but it's so fun.
I love it. So, what is the meaning behind Flourish Ashe? Behind your
Yeah.
name?
Yeah. So when I was starting my business, I really wanted to create a name and just a business that was healing all around. And the word flourish came to me because it's all about going back to that safe haven, that beauty, that blooming, that feeling of newness. Like when you hear the word flourish, it's very like whimsical and open and unrestricted. And I also wanted it to be like a prayer. So whenever anybody said flourish ashe, it was a blessing to them.
Mm.
So they can also carry that gift with them. And it just goes along with my African culture as well of like, you can manifest what you speak. And so when people say it, they're kind of like, I'm flourishing, like we're flourishing, like I flourish, Ashe kind of thing. Yeah.
I love that. Is Ashe also meaning like so it is
Yeah.
as well,
Hmm.
right? What was it like in the corporate world for you?
Yeah, that is a hefty one. It was very different. I worked at a lot of big companies. Like I worked at Victoria's Secret and Nordstrom, and I also worked at Decker's Outdoor. So I worked for big brands like UGG Australia and Hoka One One and Teva. And in those spaces, it was always really, really difficult for me. Um, I am also petite in stature and I have a different level of voice. So it was very difficult for people to take me seriously a lot of the time. And I do have an intersectional background being a queer Black female. Um, and so I crossed a lot of hurdles with pay, and just getting treated fairly, getting schedules that were fair. I had, a few instances where people said I didn't respect authority if I would bring something to HR.
Mm.
And in some of my recent jobs before I left the corporate world, I was really fighting for my pay a lot and fighting for the pay of others. And I had realized that I was making thousands and thousands of dollars less than the same people who have the same title.
Mm.
So corporate life was really hard, like really, really, really hard. I often felt like I was alone. And just the fact that I had a very different title, I was really close to management. So I kind of acted like a one and only, even in, 2022 and 2023. I was alone up there, queer Black female with a bunch of, male presenting, white presenting people. So it was rough, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Is that why you said, you know what, enough is enough? I am ready to just go on my own, become an entrepreneur, embody who I am, because you speak about embodiment a lot, which I
Mhm.
love. So what was your aha moment to kind of shift you into what you're doing now, helping other people?
Yeah. So, my coworkers and I we traveled a lot to Asia, for
Oh,
our work in manufacturing. And so we had all sat down and started talking about our salaries, our experiences. We were all experiencing rough things at the time, from our boss. And the minute that they told me their salary, like I had suspected, um, but it was that confirmation that really set everything in motion for me to do internal work. So during that moment, I was like, I've had enough of this. Like things have got to change. And so a good friend of mine who was also at the job at the time, we started the first Black employee resource group. We started recruiting people. We did Juneteenth events. I like helped with networking task force and helped build that for the company and did like internal things. So it really like that confirmation, even though I had that suspicion, really kicked it off. And the other turning point for me was, getting denied pay increase requests and them wanting me to build out a really big, like, growth plan that involved me living in China, even though no one else had to do that. That involved me like managing people, even though they didn't want to pay me a management, salary. And I was frustrated. I was really angry.
mhm.
And I went into my meeting. I had everything prepared, and my boss lost the documentation I had sent him, like, was on his phone, not paying attention. And I was like, you know what?
Mhm. Enough is enough.
Yeah, enough is enough. And I was like, there's only so long that I can sit here and pretend like everything is okay. And so from that moment, I just was like, I'm better than this. Like you
Mhm.
can't treat me like this anymore. And in that moment, it was like my body just went, nope. And I just started embodying it, right? I was like, do not call a meeting next time if you are not prepared. Like I am not going to Asia because no one else has done it. Like it just started coming out. So it was really those two moments around my coworkers like sharing their pay and just being so blatantly
Mhm.
pushed aside or like forgotten about. Like to me, it was a big deal because it was my livelihood and it felt like the people on the other end were not taking it as seriously.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
love how you said that. It's like just literally you had to embody it, and
Mm-hmm.
then the words just started coming out. You're like, nope, I'm not doing this. So
Mm-hmm.
that goes on to say, I have this tattoo. I create as I speak. And
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like you mentioned earlier, manifesting, our words create our world. Like,
Yes.
how true is that? How hard was it to embody the person you are now?
Yeah. It was really difficult during the time. Um, I was also going through a rough time in my marriage. So that was a whole nother, journey of finding my voice. So
Mhm.
I was really feeling the pain of George Floyd passing and feeling small and feeling scared and hearing my parents' voice in my head of like, you can't say anything, but you need to work hard. And, not having an example in general of what embodiment looked like, what empowerment looked like. It was really, really hard. Um, so the person that I am today took quite a few years to get there. But the minute that I decided to do what you were saying, like say something different about my story, whether internally or externally, was the moment that everything changed,
Mm,
even down to, telling my husband that I'm here by choice, so I can choose to leave. And that's eventually what I ended up doing because I had gotten myself into multiple situations because of like not embodying who I actually was and not having the confidence. Like I was carrying so much trauma from my parents, from my friends, from other family members, from my ancestors, things of just being scared to lose my job, showing up in outside spaces as a Black person, not being too loud, not laughing too loud, not coloring my hair, not wearing it. You're carrying all of these things in your body and you're like, no effing wonder, like I can't get my voice to activate. So it was definitely a step by step of me saying to myself, like, is this what you want? Like, just keeping it as simple as that. And that allowed, that opening of my energy to really come forth and become an embodiment. And then feeling like that force of nature that I just am today, that it's like, no one can step to me today and I will catch you 10 years before you even know now, So it's like a whole nother level of just confidence and living in my truth. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You were so right. It's like suppressing all those feelings
Mhm.
that you are in emotions, and it's just like layer after layer, and it takes a
Yeah.
lot. But when you start walking in that journey, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, the doors just open for you, I feel like,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it's so true. Like, and I
Mhm.
still remember, like, like what I talk about all the time of just surrounding yourself with the right people,
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with the right energy, clearing out your physical space all matters. Like, your body's reacting on so many levels. And I went to moon circles all the time. I went to those sister circles. I like found other queer Black people, even though they were hard to find in Santa Barbara. There were like two, but I was like, I need to see people like me, be around people like me, be around that confidence so I can like begin to embody and get that momentum that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took a while.
Would you say that was the beginning of your spiritual journey?
Um,
Or have you always known that you had this smaller, bigger person
hmm.
inside of you, but it just needed to come out? She needed to come out.
Yeah, I think it was in two pieces, to be honest. Like when I was younger, we're closer to the realm when we're younger. We're closer to spirituality, to spirits, to energy. And so I definitely think that my journey started back then. But as I grew up and lost a lot of my autonomy, my energy, my voice because of all of this trauma that was being passed to me that kind of came to the surface, I definitely lost it. Um, and I think that it was definitely still there, but it took certain large transitional moments in my life for it to come back. So I would say when I was finding my voice during that time in corporate life and like dealing with my husband and, finding my own freedom was definitely the beginning of a new spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Like, surrounding myself with other people who were working with their ancestors, and doing generational work, completely different obviously than what I was doing when I was younger. But yeah, I would say that's when I really started to open up to different like types of spirituality and began learning a lot about spirituality and also just redefining it for myself. Like I didn't have a name for it when I was younger. It just was, oh, there's ghosts in the hallway, like
Yes.
like you're just observing. But then like now it's like, okay, I can actually articulate it. So I would definitely say that those moments in corporate and like pushing myself out on my own were definitely the beginning of a new spiritual journey for sure.
Okay. What exactly is generational trauma and ancestral trauma, if I'm saying the correct term?
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of broad and a little abstract. Everybody defines it differently. So I try and keep it really simple. Um, Generational trauma and ancestral trauma can be ideals or literal DNA type things that we carry in our own body that we don't necessarily know that we carry or we're accepting into our lives. So like a good example of this, and I saw a video, I think it was on TikTok about it. But it was the motion of, Black people bending over and laughing or like running away when they're making jokes or being too loud. And it went back to slavery times when, they couldn't laugh and be loud. So they laughed into a barrel. So things
Wow.
like that. Yeah. So it's like there's lots of nuances in our own culture that we don't necessarily know that we carry from our ancestors. Like that's just in our DNA. There's things that we do that are just a part of us. And then there's, the energetic aspect of feeling oppression and physically feeling oppression. So we carry a lot more anxiety, or we carry a lot more feelings of depression, of, whatever it may be. So it can be that broad, but it can also be, you know, generationally how, like my grandma like always, kept her hair pristine and pressed it in a sense. Like I talk about, they were assimilating because they had to because of the times.
Right.
And that trickled into things that my mom did. So then she pressed her hair and she permed it and she worked at certain jobs that she didn't like. And then it got to me, but we had a little bit more freedom in terms of society and what our jobs really looked like. And so I knew that being at that job and being in a marriage that I didn't want to be in was the generational trauma. So it's kind of complex, but it goes back to like physical things that you experience in your body, also energetically, that do not belong to you, but then you live your life based on those invisible rules or beliefs, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yes. That goes to my next question. Can generational trauma be stored in our bodies without us even noticing it? I guess so, because if you're so in routine and this is how you were brought up because it was passed down, you don't know
Mhm.
any better.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. You really don't. And it's
Mhm.
like it can go back to confidence, or for some people it's feeling a certain way, especially if you're from the Black community, of seeing a police officer, or, not walking alone if you're a female, like all sorts of things, like learned behaviors that just live in your body that you may not even know of, but is 100% in everybody. Like there's not one person on this earth that does not carry it. Like, how some people say, like, I don't know why I can do this so well, like, but I can just do it. Like
Yeah.
that's likely passed on to them for, and has been for many, many, many generations, and they just don't know about it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
How can generational trauma be healed? Can it be healed?
hmm Yeah, so that's a great question. Both questions are great. So generational trauma can definitely be healed. Um, the first thing I always tell people is to get to know yourself and to get to know your lineage. Like those are the two most important things. If you know nothing about yourself, you can't heal generational trauma because you are the one that carries it. If you don't know about your lineage, then you don't know certain tendencies that you may carry genetically, or even just what you might experience from your culture. Like, me being Black, what my experiences as a Black person, or as having family from Africa, like all sorts of things that I carry. So it can definitely be healed. I think every practitioner does it a little bit differently. I use a fusion of spirituality and um I would say like learning more about psychology and like how the mind works and how you actually navigate social situations, and combining them two in a really safe way. But it can definitely be healed, but it can also feel really difficult to heal, which is why a lot of people don't do it or feel like it can't be healed. And I do often see some people talk about generational trauma as a generational curse, which I don't necessarily agree with. Because I do believe in freedom and autonomy, and I do believe in the power that lies within us. So if we want to overcome something, we will always overcome it, as long as we have the tools and the energy and the know-how to do it, which is why it's important to keep growing and like have experiences and surround yourself with people who do different things than you.
Mhm.
So I don't believe that we can never break a curse. So we can heal generational trauma. We can definitely break a freaking curse because we are all powerful beings. And that is my opinion about it.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're so right. We all hold the power within us. And that's so important. I feel like a lot of people in society, we were taught to not know that. But it's like, we have this power. We have the our own minds, I guess. We can use our own minds to think how we want to think, and it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know that you also are an herbalist. Can
Mm-hmm.
I say that? Okay. And I'm just making sure I'm saying the correct terms.
No, totally fine.
How can using different herbs help with our bodies?
Yeah, great question. And also, I just want to say, like, I don't always say that I'm an herbalist, so it's totally fine to me to not say it. Like, I also say I work with plants, so I never like to put too many titles on things because we can get back to that in a whole nother episode. But yeah, plants are really powerful on many, many levels. They are the foundations of life itself. They come from the earth, they regenerate themselves. So just in that act of regeneration and healing and absorbing, sun energy, earth energy, water energy, all of the energies, they hold within them really high frequencies. So even just switching up what you eat, being as close to the earth as possible. So going to farmers market or growing your own vegetables can be extremely healing, using teas you can get them from the store. I still recommend growing, or like the least amount of manipulation to your food and to your plants is the best way to work with them. And for my specific like generational and ancestral work, like I work with a lot of roots. I also work with a lot of seeds, but I also work with a lot of adaptogens that kind of help with trauma. I find that those help stabilize people because they help with anxiety. A lot of them also help you sleep. They help if you are put into stressful situations. Like a good herbalist friend of mine, her name is Ash, told me about oat straw and taught me all about it. And so the phrase is it bends, but it never breaks. So it goes with the wind. So if you're ever experiencing life during a transitional time, or even in general, you can drink it all the time, you call on the energy of that plant to be within you. So you go, but you never fall down, you never break, you never succumb to that feeling of oppression or anxiety because you have this energy of the oat straw. It's almost like you're embodying its energy, but also it has the chemical aspect of it working inside of you to
Yeah.
literally help you adapt to different situations. And it's just packed full of like nutrients. So every plant is very different. And I invite everybody to practice what I call intuitive herbalism. So just picking plants that you gravitate towards. Like you don't have to know about them, but just listen and they'll probably be like, hey, buy me. They won't
They'll call
sound like
out.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They'll call out to you, which
Yeah.
which happens a lot. And for myself recently on my own journey, I've been working a lot with High John the Conqueror, which has the story of, a slave who is very resilient and prosperous. So that has been a plant that I've incorporated into my life because I'm going through some big changes. So plants will find you, you will find plants, but they definitely are healing. So incorporating them at all times on your journey is like the best thing that you can do to heal your trauma or just heal day-to-day situations, or support you rather, your plant allies.
Yes, I love that. I still there is one thing that you told me to do last year, and I still do it till this day. So I remember you telling me, Robin, drink 1 cup of warm water in the morning. Oh,
Yes.
right, because it's not like 9 o'clock over there, right? So
Yeah.
drink a cup of warm water in the morning before you drink your coffee, juice, anything, and speak your intention into it. And I
Mhm.
literally do it every morning,
Yay.
Alisha. And it makes me feel like, and I just speak my intention throughout that for that day, if I know what's going on throughout that day. And it really does something to me internally. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for that.
You are so welcome. I love warm water. I share it with everybody. A friend who actually taught me about Ayurveda told me to drink warm water in the morning. And so that was my journey. And so then I was like inviting everybody after that. I was like, drink your warm water, drink your warm water, and then I was like, put your intention into it, like if you're starting a journey or just starting your day. I do that all the time. I hold it. I feel warm. I feel soothed. Like my brain slows down. And also, just warm water soothes your intestines. So it's physically helping your body. And a lot of people are dehydrated.
Yes.
Like you
Yes.
don't realize it, but
Yes.
we are so dehydrated. So just the simple act every morning of giving your body something natural, like by itself, is just so healing. That makes me so happy that you're still doing it. I'm so
And
excited.
I will continue to do it. So thank you.
You're
What
welcome.
exactly, I just love that you just mentioned our Ayurveda. I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm pronouncing it correctly. What exactly is Ayurveda?
Yeah,
Ayurveda, excuse me.
so Ayurveda is it's the sister science to yoga. So they go hand in hand. One is for the body and one is for healing the mind.
Okay.
So Ayurveda really focuses on healing from a natural aspect, but it's based off of the elements. So, there's vata with wind and pitta with fire and kapha with earth and a little bit of water. And they all have like kind of a mix of the elements as well. Um, but it basically teaches you and is a practice a lot in India, which is like their main practice, yoga and Ayurveda. To work with the energy of the earth, to go with the energy of the earth, to heal your body, to help your mind, and practice yoga at the same time. So you have a balance of both. But everybody has a special dosha constitution, basically. So mine is pitta vata. So I'm heavily fire. So I can also get easily inflamed. I can be really perky. And so there's all these different personality aspects. And then vata is very windy. And so when that is out of balance, I can have high anxiety. I can have like drier skin. So there's all these, like, it's like the list goes on and on and on, but it's done in such a way where there's certain foods and certain times of the day that you move your body and the way you eat to help balance out your constitution so that one's not higher than the other and you're not, inflamed or having dry skin and things like that. So it's the most beautiful practice. Like I will never stop teaching it. I want to go study it more and more and more and more and more because I feel like I'm learning something every single day. And it's been really complementary to helping communities heal generational trauma because it's helping return them to the earth, but also just help heal the body, like literally heal your body, heal the inflammation, heal the trauma, bring in high vibrational foods and move again and meditate again and just be in sync with the earth and the universe around you. It's so cool. Like I'm like 1,000%. Everybody just go do it.
Now you're gonna have me look into it. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. And it's like it's so much you can learn from it. It's like a never ending thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're always constantly learning, which what we should be doing anyways. We want to evolve as humans, right?
Yeah.
So now, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
I love it.
I do you are you into astrology?
I am into astrology, yes.
Okay, I figured so because I know that you talk a lot about moon energy and
Mhm.
what exactly, because I think we just had the new moon, right? Just
Yes,
yesterday?
yeah, in Aries.
Yes, yeah, which is very powerful. That's my north node, by the way, Aries. And whenever I think of that, because it's like leadership and confidence and just
Mhm.
going for what you want. And
Mhm.
even with myself, I am trying to embody that every day.
Yes, I love it.
But with moon energy, how important is it? to embody the moon energy and the sun energy and everything, the planets. And I'm still learning about it as I go, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It is so it is beautiful too. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's so important, to be honest. Like, I do think there is a balance. So again, going back to free will, but understanding the energy that you can tap into that you also carry in your body is really important. The work that I do, since it's also for femme presenting people, aligning with the moon, like a lot of us have moon cycles, some of us do not, but we still have the energy of the moon within us. It's really important to go with the flow. It's connecting to earth, it's connecting to these cycles of newness. It has its shadow, it has its light. So it's a beautiful way to really also do your shadow work or your inner work or your generational work with the moon. It's very, very healing. It's kind of seen as like the more, I wouldn't call it feminine just because it, gender today, it's very fluid, but
Yes.
it's known as being the softer energy, the duality that lives in all of us, right? And since we live in a society that is so heavily fast paced or a little bit more rigid, if we don't have the balance of the moon, or in yoga, it's like yin, the soft, flowy, watery parts, it's very, very difficult to find happiness, to find bliss, right? Because we're all on a journey right now to rediscover how to love ourselves on a different level. And the moon energy is all about that. Like the moon energy reveals, but it also conceals, right?
Wow.
And then the sun energizes as well. They both have their own energy. Like, we can get into the crystals all day, but like the sun is very bright, it's very lightning, and then when it's gone, it gives the power to the moon, and the moon is there, and then it gives the power to the sun. So it's very cyclical, it's very grounding. And I don't know one culture that does not align with astrology or does not accept the planets, even in Egypt or Asia, like Africa, like it's all very important. The sun literally gives life to the earth. So if you are not working with the sun, or even aware of your own sun sign and understand what energy you have in your own body, it can be very disconnecting. And so I recommend it for everybody. Like, I love astrology. My partner loves astrology. She gets into like the minutia. I'm more of the energetic one. I will tell you like what the energies are and then how to implement it. But she's like, this degree, this, and this degree,
Oh
that.
wow. Yeah.
I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like, just sit in the sun, you know? Yeah.
She
So it's
gets
a
more
very
technical with it. Okay, I love that.
yeah. But it's so important.
Yeah.
Like, thinking about my life without astrology and not being aligned with the moon, it was a very dark place, right? Like, the earth is cyclical. We are cyclical beings. So when you're working against that, you're really working against your own happiness.
Right. I love that you brung up shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
I keep hearing for the past few years now this term
Mm-hmm.
shadow work. What
Mm-hmm.
exactly is shadow work? Everyone has a shadow self, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so shadow work, I feel like, can be really ambiguous. I tend to just define it as the parts of you that we don't always look at or have not looked at in a really long time. I actually have a podcast on it. It explains it really well, but I think that our inner child lives a lot in our shadow because we have just grown up that way. So doing your shadow work involves getting to know your emotional self, your spiritual self, your physical self on a whole different level. It's really looking at the parts of you that have been difficult to look at, like why you might be getting triggered by money, or why you feel scared if you go outside, or why you can't maintain relationships and things like that. It's really about looking at the parts of you that you literally have not discovered. And I think some people have put a negative connotation to shadow, but it's the other half of you. It's
Yeah.
literally just the other half of you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's about being in that shadow. So when I say shadow work, I'm saying like, look at the other half of you. Like, don't look at your external self, look at your internal self, because it's really easy to be externally happy, but are you internally happy? Like
Mhm.
all the things that we can't see, is that where your happiness is coming from? Or is there something that's lingering there that needs to have a spotlight on it so you can reevaluate, so you can heal it? And usually the shadow work is where our deepest, happiest desires are. Like we just literally lock them away because we've been forced to go to 9 to 5s or have traditional families or raise children a certain way, you know? So the shadow work is just look at yourself from a whole view, not just like half of you, like the whole you.
It's
Hopefully that
not,
is.
yeah, no, you did a great job explaining that. It's not a bad thing. It's who we are. It's a
Mhm.
part of who we are. Don't be scared of it. I
Yes.
love that you said that.
Yeah.
We need that though too, right? That's how we learn.
Yes, exactly. That's why, like, when I was creating my podcast about the shadow, I literally called it, I think, don't be afraid of the life in the shadows, because it's us. Like it's literally just us. But you know, historically we've come to think of shadows and black
Yeah.
in general as something that is harmful, which, you know, all goes back to oppression and racism and all of these things and colonization. So it's like you said, like never be afraid of it. It's who we are. It's there. It's waiting to be seen. You just have to like
That's
look a
right.
little bit deeper. Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
You also mentioned too the feminine and masculine energy.
Mhm.
We all have a feminine and masculine energy, right? Where if it's out of balance, it seems like our life is kind of out of balance.
Mhm.
Can you kind of talk about how important it is to balance our feminine and masculine energy?
Yeah. So I think historically, and I think like what's also important to point out is for a long time, like times are changing now that gender identity and everything is so fluid. So I think for a long time, masculine and feminine was used to describe the duality within all of us, right? It's like yin and yang, right? The fiery and the more cooling or slower aspects of ourselves. And if you just take it on an energetic level, it's kind of like if you if we put like sleeping into yin and waking into yang, if you were in one too long, you would be burnt out or like too depressed. So if you're sleeping all of the time, you're gonna feel sluggish, you're gonna feel sad, you're gonna feel unmotivated, you may not want to eat, all of these things. So if you sit in that energy too long without balancing the yang energy of the brightness, the momentum, the moving, you are imbalanced on so many levels. And it's actually really easy to do because of how our society practices showing up for
Yes.
ourselves and for other people. Even working a job from 9 to literally nighttime, right? Like that's a huge portion of your life. That's a huge portion of your time. So it's no wonder you're out of balance. And then, you know, come the weekend, you either sleep or you like go really wild, you know, like
Right.
yeah, you get stuck in these cycles. So it's super important to always have that balance. And especially if you are in a corporate world, but even if you're not and you have, you know, your own business like I have, and I know you have, it's it's important. Like you need to have that time to rest, but you also need to have that time to play.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your behavior becomes destructive, right? And you can't
Yeah.
show up for your client, you can't make an impact. So everybody at every age should practice some sort of balance because they always have a duality within them. There's never a time when you just have one thing.
Yes.
Like there's always multiple things. And same thing with the moon and the sun, and they talk about it in science a lot, in history, of just the balance of good and evil, even though like we can get in that another day, but
Right.
like there's always a balance in nature. So if you are imbalanced and only seeing one side of the picture, you will not be able to be happy or find that joy and contentment within yourself, really.
Yeah. I love that explanation. I love that. That also reminded me when you just mentioned there is the season for everything. There's
Mm-hmm.
always going to be a change.
Mm-hmm.
The book, The Tao Te Ching,
Mm-hmm.
I know it says there's a part that says there's a season for play, there's a season for grief, there's a season for work, there's a season for rest. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all about balance because that is life. I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
That's so beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
exactly why a lot of cultures too, you mentioned grief, like they set times to grieve.
Yes.
Like a lot of people don't grieve a lot, and we need to be grieving, even if it's down to decisions that we made that didn't turn out the way we wanted them to, or if we
Mm,
didn't have the life that we wanted to. And even for myself, leaving my marriage, like that was a huge grieving period. And even then, like sometimes it may come up a moment of frustration, or like, why did I have to go through all of that? And it's just important. There is a season, and sometimes you're not going to be able to predict it, but you have to be able to make time for it, for sure.
beautiful. I just love our conversation.
Yeah,
I
me
feel like
too.
we can talk about this all day. I love this kind of stuff, Alicia.
Me too. I love it so much. It's so fun.
Oh my gosh. So, as we are wrapping up, I just want to ask you a few questions. What is your spiritual practice?
Yeah, my spiritual practice, it changes every day, but it always starts with quiet. Like I
Mm,
always quiet the mind every morning. It's the first thing that I do. I don't say anything to my partner. I don't say anything to my animals. Like I either go someplace or I sit in bed, and sometimes I even put my over ears on to make it fully 100% quiet. And I just allow like whatever comes up during that moment, or if I want to place my hands on my chest and my belly, if I'm feeling a little anxious or I have a launch, it always starts with silence so I can ground myself, and usually a lot of breath work after that to really expand my body and my chest, and do nervous system work and help my body remember how to relax. I do it in the morning because it's easier to do, more receptive as well. And from there, it just depends. Like sometimes my spiritual practice that day is creating a new herbal blend. Like I put my energy into that, or I bless it, or I go around blessing my family, and that is my spiritual practice. And then I create with my hands, or I go on an intuitive walk, and wherever I feel like I want to go, I go, or I pull out, my tarot cards or my oracle cards and do that. Or I created these new rollers in my line, and I will work with my chakras and open them up and channel messages. Or it really is flexible, but it always starts with silence, and then I've got my warm water and some sort of movement. That may also involve creation or allowing, but it really depends. And then at nighttime, similar kind of thing. I always like to end in silence. Sometimes I'll listen to different sounds in my earphones really soft, and then take them off and go to bed. But I'm always spending time alone. That's how I start, and that is how I end my day. And to me, that is spirituality. Like I don't believe in there being multiple practices, or like having to restrain yourself to multiple practices. It's just fluidity and going back to like my ancestors and what they did. So that is how I kind of define it, of just I listen to my intuition and slow down.
I
That
love
is my practice for now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. You're listening to what your body is wanting, what your soul is wanting.
Mhm. Mhm.
Who or what is God to you?
Yeah. So I've actually thought about this quite a bit. I grew up in a Catholic household, but not really Catholic because my mom was really flexible and also very spiritual.
Okay.
So she gave us the choice of if we wanted to do certain practices. And I'm more of like an energetic person. So I don't necessarily, I wouldn't put God to it for myself. Like sometimes I might use spirit, but spirit can mean like energy, or force, or life itself. So I don't have like a picture for it. It's just a bunch of energy that I think we all collaborate with, and live within and carry within ourselves. So I think for myself, it's really just energy itself being the source of everything.
I love your answer. I love that.
Yeah.
What would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, my 20-year-old self. Woo, they were wild. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, just do whatever you want. Like literally just do whatever you want. Like don't forget to have fun. Like, absolutely do not forget about it. Do not lose yourself. Do not feel like you have to be with anyone or be at a certain place at any time in life. Like, just experience whatever you want to experience and just tell yourself that you love yourself. Like, I think that one is a big one. Like, know that you are loved, know that you can love yourself, and know that other people love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you most grateful for at this present moment?
Yeah. I would say two things. Definitely my close family and my partner, and my animals. They are so, so loving, and entrepreneurship and this journey in life where I'm finding my own voice and, leading my own legal things with other companies. Um, I would not be able to do it without them, like without that support, without their love, without their also collaboration and vision. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm also really grateful for the trust in myself.
Mm,
Like the deep,
wow.
deep trust in myself, it guides me through everything. Like I know that I make decisions for myself, for my ancestors, for generations after me, and that I trust in, and that's in me. And
Mhm.
so I'm so, so, so grateful that I trust myself, because it's got me where I am today. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Discernment is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love your answer. How do you define love?
I define love as safety.
Mm,
Um, it all goes back to safety. I think that even if you love yourself, it's allowing yourself to be safe to experience the rest of life and to experience yourself at your full capacity. And even thinking about my partner and us loving each other, it's really helping each other feel safe to be who we want to be and still love them, right? Like we love each other regardless, but at the end of the day, like, does she feel safe enough to tell me her truth and to be who she wants to be? And do I feel safe going to her? And same with my family. I want them to feel safe so they feel loved. Because without safety, you can't feel love. So
mhm.
I think they're very interchangeable, but I think it's really creating safety to me.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Yes, you're so welcome.
Is there anything that you have coming up? So I know you just had a new launch. You want to talk
Yeah.
about that? You also have a podcast. Please let us know what your podcast is that I also listen to as well and I love. So please go ahead and shout yourself out.
Yes, thank you so much for offering and just creating this space. So I created a beautiful line, speaking of trust, that is a whole nother level of trust, putting your creations out there in
Yeah.
physical form sometimes. But yeah, you can find all my information on my Instagram and my bio. I can send you all the links, but I created like a generational wealth, love, and abundance candle that people can light and create their own rituals every Thursday
Okay.
and learn to create generational wealth. I've got this lovely like light worker roll on and energy work for the chakras, and everything's been charged and cleansed. Like it's so fucking intentional. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like I'm just
Yeah.
like, I love it so much. And I got my Seven Sisters perfume and banishing spray for low vibes, like all sorts of fun stuff that I would love to share with everybody. So that is my newest adventure. And for my podcast, like I go with the flow. I've got some episodes coming that are going to be really spiritual also in my bio. Check out the shadow work, check out, accountability, empowerment, like all of that. I get vulnerable. I talk about topics that people don't want to talk about, like Juneteenth. And please share with me any ideas if you ever want to talk or even be with me on there. You are more than welcome to.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then just my programs, my one-on-one coaching, but I'm in the middle right now of the Empowered Femme Initiation, and that has been such a wild ride. Like these people are the next big activists. Like that is what I tell them all the time. This is
I
the
love
change
it.
that they want to create. So I'm like, y'all are the next Oprahs and like like all the things. And they're like, let's go, like, let's do this, right? So yeah, that is what's going on in my life. So many things, but yeah, hit me up on Instagram, click on my bio, go say hi, buy some things, support Black owned business. You know how it goes.
Yes, yes. I love it, Alisha. So I am gonna go ahead and put your information in the bio so that people can reach out to you.
Yeah,
I just
thank
enjoyed this conversation so much. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate you. I'm sending you so much love. I can't wait to see you just blow up. I'm watching you. I tell people all the time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.